Okay, we're just coming off of Wet Canyon Road, just off the pavement here, and we got about 2 miles to go to the property. I'll be doing a drive-through, on this, going all the way up to the property. What we're going to is 80 acres of no covenant land. There's no covenants, and it's got power up here, and we got a little drive coming into it. So I'll be taking shots of videos of going on in this little trek, so you can see what it's like on the entrance here. There is a shorter way to reach the property, and it's available most of the time if the gate's open. It's controlled by a company, but most of the time it's left open. So otherwise, there's only one other neighbor up in here. Like I said, there's no covenants to it, and it's going to have great views of the Sangre de Cristos to the west. And there's one other house built up in here with that they have 160 acres of. It's sitting on, and this property borders a large ranch as well. It's got some valley down in the bottom of it, and we'll be taking a walk through the land too. Yeah, we're just coming up off the valley floor. We came in down there and coming up and around. And that's the little town of Weston, Highway 12 right down there, so it's real close. You got 30,000 acres of wildlife area right across the river over there. And then we got the Sangre de Cristos mountains when we're coming up this way, and you get these same views from the land itself too. And in person, the camera doesn't make it right, so in person, yeah, they look about that big right when you're driving around here. We just continue to drive to the property here. We've got maybe about a mile in, and I want to get the Spanish Peaks here too. So again, the Sangre de Cristos to the west there, they're about that big when you're sitting here. And then you got the West Spanish Peak, and keep on driving. Get a shot of the East Spanish Peak here. And then you got the East Spanish Peak as you're driving along here, and they look, like I said, they look about that big when you're sitting there, and it actually looks a little bigger. And then you look back to the east. To the east, that's Fisher's Peak Mountain. That's Fisher's Peak, and that Trinidad, Colorado is right below that along I-25. So this road just winds. You can kind of see it up here, and it winds back, and then it comes around, and we're going to be heading to the property from here and starting walking down into it. Real close to the southeast property corner. It's going to be about up here by this little pole. And then there's, again, you got great views up here. There's the West Spanish Peak and the East Spanish Peak. And that's what they look like when you're sitting here that size. The camera just doesn't pick them up properly. So those are the Sangre de Cristos to the west. And you can see all the way into Mexico back that way. That pointy mountain is Wheeler Peak in New Mexico, or Taos Mountain. That's where Taos ski area is at. As you can see on the aerial map, the southeast corner is going to be right in here on this side of the road. There's a little chunk that's on this side of the road that goes along the southern boundary of this property. And again, you come up to those really beautiful mountains. Great views. You got power, right to this point. So we're on the property now, and the property's all mostly to the left here, to the west, and you got good area up here you can build or do something on. And we're going to take a walk down through the property into the bottom down there and show you what that's like going on a hike. Okay, well, it's the middle of January, 2014, and we're in southern Colorado. We're about Weston, Colorado, the little town I was talking about when we first drove in, is about 18 miles west on Highway 12 coming out of Trinidad, and then you come about 2 miles up wet canyon road on pavement, and you come about 2.5 miles to the property here on the dirt road that's maintained and graveled, where you can get in here and do things. You can see a fence line there, and that goes down into the canyon, and that is the northern boundary of the property. The corner is over there across the road. There's a little bit, if you look on the aerial map, you can see a little bit on the other side of the road. So I'll have a better aerial map online for this. If you can see, you can't see it. Anyway, we're gonna be there's a old Jeep trail that goes all the way down, goes down through here and goes all the way, winds down through the property, and you can see that on the aerial, and it'll go way down to a meadow down below. And again, there's power up here. There's a gas line coming through here along this grassy area. So where you'd build is like so you can get some privacy too, is like maybe out in here, or somewhere in here, and go camping or whatever you want to do. That with this roughed in road, you could take it, it's a driveway, you can take it in, and you could be right there in the center of the property on that mound where those 2 trees are at. But we're looking west here. Again, the mountains are a lot bigger than what you see in this camera. And we're going to start walking down now. And so this would be the far northeast corner. The property is 80 acres long, half mile long going this direction to the west. The Spanish Peaks are to the north, and this is to the south, and we got about a 1/4 mile that way to go to the the southeast corner, and this is the northeast corner, and you can see the little Jeep trail here. You need a dozer, and you can work this, and like I say, you could put a cabin on this center mound out here if you wanted to, or anywhere in here on this bench in here. And with this roughed in already, it wouldn't take a lot to improve. We just walked down a little ways into the first 40, and you can see the sangres up here up above you as you're walking. And we're on this little road. Like I say, it's January and it's 50-something degrees out here. This is a north-facing slope here, but at this elevation, you just don't get a lot of snow. But you do get it, and it doesn't stay around for the most part. And this is looking into the interior. And you see, you got a little bench area down in here. You got a nice usable land on this property. Because this is a north-facing slope we're standing on, you've got some fir trees and stuff intermixed with these ponderosa pines, like that one there. That's a ponderosa. Then you got pinyon and juniper. And the pinyon nuts, you can collect those, and the guys around here, you sell them for $15 a pound at the time when they're producing. So, like I said, you could improve this fairly easily. It's a pretty short distance to come down through here, and come to that center little bench area I was pointing out up above, where you make a campsite or something. We'll walk up to it. I think there's a little fire ring or something in there, but there's a lot of more usable ground through here. And as we're walking along, we're seeing elk droppings going through here. Okay, there's a little road we came down. There's that kind of flat area in here. That high ridge back up there is where we started. And we're coming up through here. This is where you have the dozer man bring you a little road to this spot right here in the center of the property. Just about in the center. Go up this way. You can kind of angle it over here. Got real neat rock formations scattered throughout the property. Neat little camping area, or whatever you want to use it for, right here. And this is the spot from on the top, what I was telling you about. You come to that up there. There's the power going along that side. That's looking south. And those power poles go along that road that goes through the southern part of the property there. Got some pretty views. And that gas well over there, yes it does. That's on the property, on the far western 80. And the southern boundary line, you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see a green gate there. The southern boundary line runs through about where that green gate's at. So you got this entire canyon that's below our feet here, and we're gonna take off down this side, head for the grass meadows down below, and we'll walk back up that little Jeep trail that we were on, coming down from the top. See if we can see it's got a little meadow area down here. Yeah, you can see the meadow from here. So that meadow you can see on the topo, on the aerial and on the topo. That meadow's on the west 40 acres and a part of the property down in there. And it used to have a little catch pond down there. I don't know what the condition of the little dam was, I forget, but we'll see when we get down there. So we're going to walk down through here and go down the bottom. Okay, we're still heading down to the meadow down there. We're going to head down, just down on this nice little rock cliff, nothing big and dangerous. And walk down this little valley right to it. And there's those, again, I know it might be kind of hard to believe, but that's what the mountains look like. They're actually a little bit bigger when you're standing here. And those mountains up there, you've got over 100,000 acres of national forest and wilderness area on the Spanish Peaks and those Sangre de Cristos up there. We're gonna head down. Nice little oak leaves laying there everywhere from the oak brush. And we came down from right up there. That's the spot in the middle of the property you could easily get to with here and make a nice little place for a campsite or dozer or whatever. A house. And here's you can see it on the aerial. This is the road, the little Jeep trail that we started on. So it actually will come all the way down to this without a lot of expense. If you had to do some improvement, if you had your own tractor or something, you wouldn't have to do a lot. Even just some shovels and a chainsaw. And you wouldn't have to do a lot, and you could use this old Jeep trail to come right down to the meadow down here in the valley that we're looking at now. The meadow valley's over there, grass, and you can see all this, and it's pretty neat looking through here. Got elk that come down in this and range in this area, especially this time of year in the late seasons when we have higher snow amounts. And most snows in southern Colorado, we get about the same as like Colorado Springs or Denver on snows. But because of our average 50-degree year temperatures, just got some neat rock formations and stuff. A lot of hiking you can do on this property. Because of our average 50-degree winter temperature, the snow just doesn't stick around deep or anything. It's nice and quiet and peaceful down here. Yeah, we're getting down in the meadow area here. And it is grazed down pretty darn good. This grass will be, usually the grass, you'll have a bunch of it that's at least, 3-4 foot high. So, this has been grazed out by the elk and the deer. It's mowed down pretty good. So you can see this old dam that's here, this old dam. So it's just not holding the water, and plus we haven't gotten, last year we got 30 something inches of snow versus 150. That may sound a lot to a lot of you out there, but places like Wolf Creek Pass, they get 480 inches of snow a year or better. So we're walking down this old dam. This is all nice and level because all the wash coming down over the years filling this in. Anyway, this canyon here is the main canyon that goes east and west. And that's the trail leading back up to where we came from. And that gas well is way up there on the hill. So this side. Pretty in here. Nice little meadow. Nice bowl. Okay, so we're still down this meadow area. I wanted to point out, the property goes still a good ways that way down canyon. You see the top of this ridge up here. If you notice on the mapping, the property line goes, boundary line goes, the western boundary goes about halfway up that hill across. And you got a quarter mile because it's a 40-acre tract. 40-acre tracts are a quarter mile by a quarter mile. And since you got 80 acres total lined up side by side, you go a half mile this direction. And again, this is where we come from. We're going to be walking back up the old Jeep trail, going back up the top. Okay, we're just walking up the Jeep trail, going back up the top, coming from the meadow area. This is the little draw we just came down, and this is where the Jeep trail keeps going. And down the bottom of this, up towards the, further up here, there's a little spot where it can be wet most of the time, especially in normal snowfall years. Have a little, pooling area where it's spring seeping out of the side of the mountain. But only if we've got good snowfall. Now you see you got some cottonwoods down in here. That tells you, you got this water sitting around. It's frozen right now, but that'd be a little pool of water sitting there, and that's sitting there most of the time of the year. The water's actually you can see it melting and draining out and going down. There's a lot of animal tracks down in there where they've been getting down there and sipping on that. And we just came from that little spring seepage area. You see it starts up here. And that's still all a part of it. And that southern boundary fence that I pointed out with the gate, there's a post right over there on that hillside. So we're right on the southern boundary as we're getting onto this eastern 40 acres that we started on, walking up this Jeep trail. Kind of hard to see through these trees, but you got another nice little bench area down here. Got some big rock formations and that narrow canyon in there. It's real pretty. The lighting is offsetting it a bit. Okay, Jeep trail keeps going up there. If you go up that way and curve around, you'll meet up with the first place I said, you can go off and make a nice little camp spot and stuff. The southern property line, northern, there's a fence right along there, so right on the boundary. You see the aerial, the curve of this little Jeep trail. You can see it on the aerial, and the northern boundary line's right there. So we're gonna walk up the rest of the way just through the trees and stuff. Since we already seen the Jeep trail coming down from this point to this point. There's a rub, elk rub, tore up. So here's the northern boundary fence. The rest of it's not fenced. On this side is about a 2,500 acre ranch. So you got a lot of privacy here. And this is an overlook of the valley. We just came up this fence line here. The lone trees, tall pines over there. That's the first spot where the Jeep road comes down. And then you can just go right up to it. Have that big flat area right in the middle of your property. Or you can be on top if you don't want to go do that kind of access trouble. You can see there's this flat area down in here where you could do things with and camp and stuff too. And we're got about 100 yards to go to get to the top here. Okay, we made it back on top and we're through basically. And show you the short drive out, which you can take most of the time as we're exiting here. And here's a truck. And that road Jeep trail we started on is just right over there by that little pine right there. And we went down in. And there's some of the eastern edge of the property is on this side of the road too. Very little, but it's over there too. So you're not gonna have somebody building over here. Okay, we're driving out to the road that heads from east to west along, you know, basically the southern portion of the property. And, you know, like I said, you know, down there is where we're just doing all the hiking. We saw these power poles pointed out, you know, we were down in there. So this is looking back south, and you can see down in the canyon down here, that's Wet Canyon. You get to Highway 12 right to Weston, and then you can go north or west on Highway 12 and circle around to the mountain lakes up there for fishing and stuff. They're about 15 minutes to those lakes and things up there. And that 80 acres, we're still going here. And down there, the Meadow area is right down there in the bottom right there. And that hill right there is where the western 80 acres goes halfway up the side of it that I was talking about when we were down the bottom. The sun's right there way. As you can see, we're coming down this hill. And we're coming, this is the short way. I mean, you're down here 3/4 of a mile or less to get back to Wet Canyon Road and the pavement, back to Highway 12. You gotta go a little slower when you come around these corners. So, you know, and then obviously that canyon there, that's where we drive right back down to the main road.